Okay, so now I want to show you how to convert a more blended image. Now the reason that PNG and JPEG images can look so pretty is because they have pixels, and SVG files do not have pixels. They have infinite amount of points around them. So when we have a pixel, it allows us to blend colors. You see this sunflower image I have here has these yellows and oranges all blended together. So when you're working with a more blended image like this, you kind of have to do more cleanup when you're doing the conversion process. So I want to show you the way that I clean some of my images up in this example here. I got this sunflower image on freepik.com. They have a lot of free images on there that you can use, and they also have a very affordable image plan if you want to find images for converting things or even just using like print and cut projects. So all I'm going to do here is you can download it or you can right click and save the image or copy the image. I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to come over here, and this is what my image looks like after I go through the conversion process. So I already did this because I just wanted to kind of get a feel for, you know, how it's going to turn out and how I was going to teach you guys. So I'm going to paste that. All right, so here is my original image here. This is a PNG image. And we're going to do exactly the same thing we did with the mermaid image, except that we're going to have to change a few things over here in the trace bitmap panel. Let me clear this off so we can again walk through from the beginning so you're not confused. I'm going to go up to Path, Trace Bitmap, or you can do Shift-Alt-B on your keyboard. And then this panel will open up here. You want to make sure Colors is selected. You want to make sure this to stack the scans, you want to have remove background ticked, and you want to have live preview ticked, okay? And before with our mermaid tail, we just did we did 3 scans. This has a lot more colors to it, so if we were to only do 3 with this, bring these down. If we were to only do 3, that's what it would look like in the little preview box right there. So it's not going to give us all the colors we want. There might be cases where you want something like this, and then you would just do exactly like that. You would just bring the desired number of scans down. But because I do want to capture the green and some of the other colors, I'm going to take this up, and we're going to leave it at, I think, 8. 8 is pretty good. It captures a majority of the colors that we're looking for, and we're going to delete some more of these scans in a minute, but 8 is a good number here from our preview that we're able to assess there before we actually execute the trace. So once you have everything set, 8 scans, remove background, stack scans, live preview, on colors, go ahead and hit OK. It's going to take a second, and then it's going to execute the trace, and our copy is now what we're pulling off the top here, and this is still our original underneath. I'm just going to delete that, get it off the canvas so it's not slowing down our interface at all. And you can see now even the image here that I just converted still looks very different than my final result. Now, let me say, depending on how much work you want to do, you could leave it like this, but you will just have a lot of layers to put on top of each other. I generally don't recommend layering things like vinyl more than 3 layers together, because then it gets a little bit like thick and hard to work with. So we want to try and pare this down a little bit more. So we need to ungroup these layers. So to ungroup, just right click and go down to ungroup, or you can do Shift-Alt-G on your keyboard. Okay, click off the image, then click back on and start pulling the scans apart. Get these all pulled apart. Let me get this over there a little more. All right, get these all pulled apart. And then we want to start sort of assessing these scans to decide what we want to keep and what we want to delete. I'm definitely going to keep this background piece here because it's a good base piece, so we're definitely keeping that one. And I want to make sure I have some greenery showing. So this one right here, this green, has a lot of the green color right where the leaves are. And we can see in our preview image it's still present over here from the original. And that kind of gives us an idea of where we want to look to make sure our colors are still coming through. So I'm definitely going to keep this one because I'm going to want some of this greenery right here. Okay, so I don't see any need for this one then. This one didn't turn out very well. It's kind of like choppy in some places, and it's not fully, it didn't even fully trace that one. It just kind of added it as an extra color. So I'm just going to delete that one. I'm just using my delete key on my keyboard anytime I delete something. So we're definitely keeping these. And I'm probably going to keep this one too because it makes a nice outline. So see, if we put that back over, it kind of adds that dark outline that goes around it. It's not perfectly stacked right now, but it adds that nice dark outline. So I'm going to keep those 3 for sure. And let's look at these remaining few that are right here. This one here that's more of the brownish orange has more detailing to the petals and to the leaves, and this one does not, the lighter orange. So I'm going to get rid of the lighter orange one. And we're just going to set this guy aside over here, and I'm going to tell you why later on, but I'm just going to set him aside. And I'm going to pull these down now, and I want to stack them back together because I want to see where I need to eliminate color, because now we need to clean it up a little bit more. If you need to get them perfectly stacked, just bring them together like so, and open up your Align and Distribute panel. To open your Align and Distribute panel, just do Shift-Control-A on your keyboard. And right here, you will see Center on Vertical Axis and Center on Horizontal Axis. While all 3 of those scans are selected, click on the vertical axis and then click on the horizontal axis, and it will perfectly stack your scans. So they are right back to the way they were when we traced them. Now we can see we have that nice brown outline that I probably won't really touch too much, but the green is all over the place. So I just want the green to show on these leaves here and on these leaves here. The rest of the area, I either want to change that color or I want to eliminate it altogether. So I need to erase some of this green. I need to get rid of it. So there's lots of ways to do this, but I'm going to try to give you guys the simplest approach because I know some of you DIYers have never worked with a software like this, and it's very overwhelming to just work through a video like this. So I'm going to try and give you the least amount of steps with the easiest amount of tools possible. And that would be the erase tool, which is in your left toolbar towards the bottom, and it's sort of like a little pink square. So before you select that, I want you to make sure that you have the green layer selected. Right now, I think I have the brown layer selected. Let me see here. Let me click off my image. Yeah, okay, make sure your green layer is selected. And you can tell your green layer is selected if you look down in the far bottom left-hand corner, it'll say Fill, and you'll see this green swatch that matches the green of our leaves. That's how we know that it's selected, because that's what's showing up here by our selection on our screen. Okay, so make sure you've selected the greenery in this case, and then select your erase tool. Now I'm going to zoom in here, and to zoom in, just pinch your keypad on your laptop, or you can use the zoom in and out button on the 4th icon down on the left side. And we're going to come in here, and we're going to erase anywhere we don't want that green. Don't worry about actually erasing all the greenery. I just want you to focus on cutting it off where you want it to stop, okay? So right here, I am gonna cut just like that. I'm gonna come over here. I don't want it going any farther than this here. Okay, and I'm going to come around the tip of it here and down. And let's come down this way some more. All right, and more so here. And what this is doing is it's cutting the path here, and it's going to give us the ability to break this green apart so that we can keep what we want and get rid of what we don't want. And because the green is what we have selected, that's what's being erased, and it's not touching the brown. But the brown is giving us a guide of where we want the green to stop. So it's a pretty cool little trick there. So I'm going to come over here and do the same thing up here in this greenery area. I'm going to come right here, start kind of in the middle. Let's bring this down. And I am just continuing to erase. If you don't get it perfect, don't worry, we're going to do a second round of more detailed cleanup. And we're going to come around here. Let's see what we got going on here. All right, so we stopped here. I'm going to follow this line around. Just like that, just tracing kind of the outline there of that leaf. All right, kind of messed that up a little bit. That's okay, we can fix it. All right, so let's go ahead and pull off the brown so we can kind of see if we cut the path properly. Pulling the brown off here. All right, so we can see here how we erased all along that outline area here. You can see I kind of missed a spot right there. I'm just gonna grab my erase tool. Whoops. Got to make sure that green is selected. Grab my erase tool and come in there. All right, just making sure that everything has been properly divided. If you have any places like this, make sure you go back in with your erase tool and just cut the path with the eraser, okay? Because there's a reason you're going to need to make sure that that's that way, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. That's all fine. All right. That's all fine. Let me check up here real quick. Cut all the way through there and up to the top here. All right, that should be fine. All right, so now I'm going to zoom out. We've done our eraser step. Now I want you to pull the green off, move it over here. I want you to go up to Path and go down to Break Apart while the green is selected. When you do that, your image is going to change and all these little pieces are going to kind of get broken apart and cut out of what we have here, okay? The only pieces I'm concerned about keeping here are the green pieces. Now, I pulled the greenery off here, and then we can see here that this greenery piece isn't coming apart, which means we didn't erase something properly. So let me zoom in here. Okay, so right here is where we failed to erase. So I'm just going to grab that erase tool. I'm going to cut that path there, and let's try again. Path, break apart, there we go. Now that piece releases, and we don't need all this. We're able to easily delete that. I'm just going to delete this here, delete that. I'm going to hang on to this just for the time being because I might want to come back to it. While you're working, make sure you're saving your progress. So make sure you save your file and you're doing Control-S on your keyboard every couple minutes so that nothing is going to get lost if for any reason your computer were to shut down on you. So I have my two leaf pieces here. Now let me pull these back because I don't know if that's... Yeah, I think that was supposed to be green. Yeah, it's supposed to be green. Okay, we're good. All right, so now I have my greenery pieces. I'm going to pull those back on top here to get a visual. Let me zoom in here. We have just those greenery pieces that we wanted. And I'm going to zoom way in so I can get these aligned really well. There we go. That one's aligned. Let's come over here. This one, get it right there. All right. Now let's pull over that brown piece again. That'll be my doggy barking. Probably means someone's at my door. All right, so I'm going to actually pull the brown piece over, and then I'm actually going to hold Shift on my keyboard and select the yellow piece as well. And I'm going to go back over to that Align and Distribute panel, and I'm going to just align it on that center and horizontal axis so that I know it's properly stacked together. Okay, so we can see we did a pretty good job erasing. Everything looks like where it should be. If we zoom in really close here, we'll notice that some of our pieces are kind of not right. Like this area here should be covered in green and it's not. So in order to fix that, we're just gonna edit a little bit more in detail. I'm going to click on that green piece right there. I'm going to go to the second tool down on the left, which is Edit Paths by Nodes, and I'm going to select some of these nodes by clicking and dragging, and then I'm going to hold one of the nodes down and pull it until it covers that area. Select and pull. Okay, then we have this area here that's kind of sticking out too much, so I'm going to select a bunch of those nodes, and I'm just going to hit delete, and then I'm going to hover over the line so that little hand appears, and I'm going to pull the line back. There we go. Now it's behind the brown where it should be. Take a minute and look around to see if there's anywhere else. So here's another piece right here that needs a little bit of fixing. So I am just going to pull this up. I'm selecting, I'm grabbing a node when it's selected, and I'm dragging it up. Okay. Same thing here. I'm going to just grab the line and drag up. Right, that looks pretty good. And when you're in here real close and you see some of these really tiny pieces that really don't add to the image at all, they're just kind of there because the image traced that way, feel free to get rid of them by just clicking, dragging, selecting those nodes, and then hitting delete on your keyboard, because you may want to eliminate just some of those messy spots. So like here, for example, there's no point in there being this kind of cutout here in the yellow. I'm just going to select those nodes and delete it, so that's a nice smooth area. There's no point in having that there. So that's that. Let's come over here and do the same thing with this white area. Deleting that. All right. There's a little area here that needs some help. And I'm just going to select those nodes. I'm just going to delete those, and then I'm just going to pull the line back. There we go. All right. We have a really messy area right here that needs some cleanup. So I'm going to grab all these nodes. In this case here, I left these two nodes right here untouched so that when I delete these, they're still there. And that way it doesn't change the entire line itself. These nodes that are down here, I'm going to grab them all together, and then I'm going to select, let me try that again. Let me grab them all, okay? And then hover and select one. It is not cooperating with me. There we go. All right, just pulling those over. I'm just going to pull this all the way over like so, and then I'm going to grab at these little handles that are sticking out here, and I'm going to pull these down in. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. If you ever need to add a node back, you would just hover over the line and double click, and it will add a node. So I just added one there, and I'm going to delete these, and then that's going to kind of smooth it out for me. Okay. Now I just need to go back down here and kind of fix this a little bit. So I'm just going to select some of these and hit delete. And I'm going to grab at that line and tuck it back behind that brown so that it is not sticking out there. And I'm going to add, double click and add a node there. And I'm going to get rid of this little messy area. And I'm going to pull this over and pull that down. Okay, let's see what happens when we zoom out here. Still looks a little off, so let's actually bring this right down here. There we go. All right, that looks a little bit better. It looks like our leaf kind of moved a little bit on us here, perhaps. So let's see. Okay, for some reason it jumped over on us there. There we go. It's a little bit more in line now. Ooh. All right, let's go zoom back in for just a second. There's a few other little areas we need to fix. So you should be understanding now how to kind of clean up your image. You're going to be using that nodes tool and the erase tool, and then you're just going to be kind of pulling the lines until everything is lining up as it should be. And this is just one of the layers that we're working on here. So obviously when you're working with blended images, you might have to do this for 2 or 3 or even more layers depending on how what image you're using and how you want it to look. So it does take some practice. It does take patience. I highly recommend working with some more simplistic images first until you get better at this process and a little bit more familiar with it. I have an entire program called Free the SVG that I teach you everything from baby beginner steps, starting right with downloading the software to working up to extremely advanced stuff step by step. So I definitely understand that this is like an intermediate lesson. I'm just doing this for people who are interested in learning how it's done, but this is not something where I would start a beginner with because this would be overwhelming. So I am just showing you the process, but if this is overwhelming to you, that's just because you're a beginner and you need to start with the baby steps. And if you want to learn more about joining my main program for this, then I have that linked below this video for you. All right, so that's not too bad. We could get a little more detailed here, but I don't want to waste too much time just getting too finite here. Overall, the green is where it should be, the yellow is where it should be, and the brown is where it should be. We could stop right here and say, hey, I'm happy with it, or we could maybe add some shading in. So I left this guy right over here that I told myself to save, and I mentioned that to you guys. I also left these green pieces over here. I'm just getting it here real quick. Let me zoom back in. All right, there we go. And now I could take these pieces and I could kind of decide what I maybe want to add to the flower. Now, I'm actually pretty happy with this. Like, I would just like to keep it like this, and we just created a 3-layer SVG really easily there, and that took us about 25 minutes. I went really slow here for you guys, but once you get your pace up, it might take you 10 minutes to do this. But if I wanted to add some more of the orangey yellow back in here, you could grab some of these pieces that I left over here with the green, and you could pull that in, and then we could change the color. Let me open up my fill panel. If you ever want to open up custom colors, you have your colors down here in the footer, but if you ever want to open up the custom colors, just click in the bottom left-hand corner where it says fill, and it'll open up your fill and stroke panel. This will give you a color wheel, which will allow you to customize the exact color. So this is too orange for my preference, so I'm going to move it a little bit more towards the yellow spectrum. And I'm going to just bring that a little darker. It's a little too dark. There we go. You can type in custom color codes here, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it, and it's just giving it a little bit of a different shade. If I wanted to, I could bring this back in real quick. This is our original image. I'm just going to bring this back in real quick. And using my original image in the fill and stroke panel, let me click on that little piece we were just working with. It's going to let me. All right, I got that little piece we were just working with, and if I wanted to, I could match the color. So see kind of this deeper orange in our original here? We could match that by taking this little eyedropper tool right here while the piece we want to change the color of is selected, and go in here and I could select. There we go. So now I have that exact match of that orange that I liked in this original imagery. So once I have that, I can just delete that. And then I could continue to grab some of these pieces over here if I wanted to bring in some more orange color and use that dropper tool to change it. You could also take this piece over here, and if I wanted to, I could come in here, let's say this piece right here. I could take my paint bucket tool and I could just drop my paint bucket tool in there. My stroke is turned on. I'm going to turn that off. And I just kind of created a cutout using my paint bucket tool. And now I'm going to bring this over. I'm going to line it up a little bit there. There we go. and now I added a nice orange texture to that one there. So let me show you that one more time just so you understand what exactly I did there. I'm grabbing pieces from the one we broke apart, or you can use an existing piece and use your paint bucket tool on the left toolbar, and you can drop the paint bucket tool in a bound area, pull it over, and place it where you want. Now, I could leave it just like this if I wanted to, or if I wanted the orange to be going down and touching the center, I could again grab that nodes tool and I can maybe pull some of this down a little bit if I wanted to. That's a little too far. So I could maybe do this, and I could shape it a little bit more to the actual area. Could delete some nodes where we don't want them, and we could kind of make it look like it's kind of coming from the center, or some of it's coming from the center like that. Okay, we could also do that over here because this one kind of looks a little odd, like being cut off like this. So we could grab this node here when we select our nodes tool. To select your nodes, you always can just go down to the second one over here, or you can double click. So right now I have this orange selected. If I wanted to edit the nodes on the brown, then I would just, if I had my selection tool, I would just double click and then it changes it to nodes. So that's the shorthand way to do it, in case anyone's wondering how I'm doing that. All right, so I'm just gonna pull this guy down a little bit more there. And that looks a little bit better. Okay, so you can see here how we've now added a little bit of that orange shading back in. Obviously, like I said, it's never gonna look exactly like the original image. That's not possible because we're changing it to an SVG file. It just resembles the original image, and we've kind of made the colors more, turn the colors into layers versus having them blended. So I'm going to save this. Let me add in, this is bothering me. Let me add in this right here. And I'm just thinking I'm gonna leave it just like that. Just with this one. I'm just gonna pull this one in and let me get that dropper tool to get it to be the same color orange. And I'm just gonna leave it like that. I would get, if I was doing this for myself and like actually planning to do a project with it, I would probably get a little more detailed and continue everything I've already showed you with grabbing the nodes tool and maybe just straightening these lines out a little bit more. But I don't want to bore you guys to death, probably more than I already have done so, because you should understand the concept of what I've been showing you because we've gone over it several times now. So I'm going to save this file and I'm going to pull it into Inkscape so you can see how it turned out. I'm just going to get this off my screen here. Get that off my screen. This was my original one, and I took a little bit more time on my original one here. You can see I added some more of that orange color in. So if I wanted to continue this flower, you would just continue to repeat the same steps if you wanted to add some more of that orange in. So I'm going to get rid of this one over here since I already have my original. You want to, of course, save it. So you would do File, Save As, just like we did with the other one. Save it as whatever you want, Inkscape SVG. Save it to your location that you want it to be saved to. And I already have it saved, so I'm replacing the file. Now let's go over to Design Space. Let me take these guys off our screen. And let's upload that sunflower image. Okay, there it is. Saving it. And click on it, Insert. And again, it seems to have jumped our imagery down, way down there. So we're just going to change this to a 0. And there it is. I'm also noticing here that I have some stray little pieces that are registering down here. We can't really see them, so let me ungroup this, and I'm just gonna, there we go. If that happens to you, then just Yeah, there we go. I think we're good now. All right, I'm going to enlarge this, and it's going to make it look a little bit more like our original did in Inkscape. And there we go. So now I can ungroup these, and I can use my attach tool or my weld tool if I want to weld anything here. Like for example, I might want to weld all of these darker, pieces here. Maybe I want to attach all of those together. I don't know why my screen is jumping down like that. One of those little Cricut Design Space moments. All right, and to select all of these, I'm just holding my Shift key and clicking to select what I want. And then I'm just gonna weld. There we go. Now all of those darker yellow pieces are together, and then we have that brown piece, and we have this as well, and we have this as well. And I'm noticing here now that I brought this in, these little marks right here, I could have cleaned those up better in Inkscape. So let me go back and show you. Pull this off, pull this off. Here's those little marks that we're seeing there in Design Space. So to get rid of those, I would just select that nodes tool and select the yellow. I would drag over it and delete those nodes, and that gets rid of them. If you ever want to unite something together to where you don't have to weld like we did when we got into Design Space here, we had to weld these pieces together. If you want it to come in already like that and you don't want to do the weld step and you want to do that in Design Space, I'm sorry, in Inkscape, sorry, I meant to say Inkscape, there's a really easy way to do that. You would just click and drag to select those colors you want there. You can also go up to, you can also have one selected and go up to Edit and down to Select Same Fill Color, and it'll select all that exact same color. Then you can go up to Path and Union, and all those pieces are now together. Okay, so that's another way to do that. Basically, Path and Union is the same thing as Weld in Design Space. If you wanted to be a little bit more clean here with your leaves, you could come in here and we could kind of clean these up a little bit more and just sort of make the edges look a little more smooth here because they are a little bit jagged because we use the eraser tool. However, I'm not even going to see those. So unless for some reason Cricut has a problem cutting it out, which I don't know why it would, I'm just going to leave it as is because it's not even going to be seen and it's not a big deal. So that is the steps, the many, many steps of learning how to convert everything from a simple image to a more blended image into a layered SVG file that can be used inside of Cricut Design Space. This is kind of an intermediate to advanced lesson. If you've never done anything like this, you're probably going to have to either watch the video several times or you're going to kind of want to start with more beginner steps. And if you're interested in learning my entire process for going from a beginner to where I'm at, I would love for you to join me inside of my free The SVG course, which I have linked below for you. But I hope for those of you who are looking for a video that kind of went into more detail that this helped some of you. And I will see you guys next time.